whether India needs a $5 trillion economy at the end of financial year 2024-25. More specifically, it should be achieved at the end of 2025-35 March. Obviously, one may also ask about the need to have a $5 trillion economy. Why not a $5 trillion rupee economy? Between dollar and rupee, there is one common factor, that is 5 trillion economy. As on 24th March 2011, the rate of dollar is equivalent to 72.58 rupees. Why our rupee is so weak vis-a-vis dollar? We shall come back to that issue a little bit later. Should we think of a $5 trillion economy with a weak rupee, that is of about 75 rupees per dollar, or should we think of a $5 trillion economy with a strong rupee, that is of about 7 rupees per dollar? Question is, what makes a dollar stronger than a rupee? In the foreign exchange market, ordinarily value of one currency vis-a-vis other currencies depends on the supply and demand condition at a certain point of time in a day, and it goes on changing over time throughout the day with the variation of supply and demand on the currency under consideration. Whether a strong currency signifies a strong economy or a weak currency signifies a weak economy. In the Eurozone, there are many countries where euro is stronger than dollar, whereas India has attained a status of 5th position globally in terms of GDP, and its currency position stands as 72 plus per dollar. Therefore, even after attaining 5th position globally in terms of GDP, its currency is very weak vis-a-vis dollar. Though many Europe countries having less than GDP than India, one cannot say that they are economically weaker than India. Maybe per capita GDP is the right answer. Such Euro countries may have higher per capita GDP than India. Even Japanese yen is weaker than Bangladesh taka. Does it mean that Japanese economy is weaker than Bangladesh economy? Therefore, a strong or weak currency doesn't say anything about the economic strength of a country. We need to search somewhere to get the right answer for the strength and weakness of a country. To our mind, several factors may be referred to this issue. First, gross domestic product (GDP). Second, per capita GDP, that is per capita gross domestic product. Then, merchandise trade surplus or deficit. And fourth, current account position, surplus or deficit. Definitely, GDP is an important criteria to ascertain the strength and weakness of a country. For example, USA and China. USA is having $21.43 trillion economy, whereas China is having $14.34 trillion economy, as per 2019 year estimate, whereas per capita income in USA stands $65,298, and for China it is $10,262. Per capita income suggests that the citizens of America are far better off than that of China. Of course, it doesn't say anything on the distribution of income among the citizens of a nation. Hence, with this per capita GDP, if equitable distribution of income and wealth of a nation is taken into consideration, definitely one can say then that such a country enjoys the status of a welfare nation. Again, a nation is considered maintain a good position in the international trade if it enjoys a surplus in merchandise trade, or at least maintains a deficit of 5 to 7% in goods trade. Side by side, it maintains a current account surplus or a little deficit which is otherwise manageable. It is however impossible to think of a situation where every nation enjoys surplus in current account or merchandise trade. In the international trade, always there will be a situation where some countries will have a trade deficit and others trade surplus. Or for that matter, always there will be a situation where some countries, some nations will have current account surplus or others have current account deficits. But then on a global scale, international trade in goods and services is always at an equilibrium situation. That is to say, international balance of payment position will always attain an equilibrium situation. Let us now look back to the issue of why our rupee is so weak vis-a-vis dollar. One school of thought suggests that we have decided to keep our rupee weak vis-a-vis dollar in order to match with our long-term goal of achieving a $5 trillion economy within a time period of March 2025. Even if it be assumed as correct, is there any justification for that? Basically, when an economy will expand in every field, right from agriculture to agro-based industries, small manufacturing activity to medium, large enterprises, infrastructure beginning with roads, ports, airports, banking and services, trade, hotel, restaurants, number of exportable commodities to other countries will multiply to a great extent, such that every other country can have a scope to purchase something of their requirements from such a country. This situation will lead to increase in demand for goods and services from other countries, especially from neighboring countries, pushing thereby value of its currency. This is what is happening to the case of China, as it produces every type of manufactured products that are now available in the West. Of course, one may question about their qualities as compared to what are being produced in the West. This is the reason why Chinese renminbi versus USA dollar stands 6.57 per dollar. as on 1st April 2021, whereas it is 73.43 per dollar as on 1st April 2021. This also suggests that Chinese currency is much more stronger than Indian currency, resulting in 1 renminbi getting equivalent to Indian rupee of 11.17 as on 1st April 2021. Other school of thought maintains that keeping rupee weak against dollar would be beneficial for exports from India to a great extent and be helpful towards attaining a $5 trillion economy by the end of financial year 2024-25. Although we could have achieved a $5 trillion economy without putting restriction on the value of rupee vis-a-vis dollar. That is to say, Indian rupee should be allowed to appreciate or depreciate against American dollar so long as there is no high fluctuation on either side, that is appreciation or depreciation. Why it is necessary? Because we should not forget the fact that India needs to float its currency INR, rupee, Indian rupee, internationally, beginning with neighboring countries like Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Pakistan, Maldives, Afghanistan, to Asian countries excluding China and Japan in the medium term period, that is 2 to 4 years. Finally, India should think of floating INR rupee to Europe, America, Japan and China at the end of 5th year or the beginning of 6th year from now. What does it mean in practice? It means that India would allow its neighbors from now onwards to import from India against payment of Indian rupee instead of dollar. Of course, options should be given to neighboring countries for payment against import from India either by dollar or INR rupee. This should be the beginning of floating Indian rupee in the international market. Hence, India should come out from phobia of keeping its currency weak vis-a-vis US dollar in her pursuit towards achieving a $5 trillion economy within March 2025. Rather, India should think of producing every type of manufactured products in the foreseeable future so that it can always remain in a position to offer some products to other countries, especially neighboring countries, for the time being. This would help to increase our currency value in the near to medium term period. This does not mean that no action will be taken if there is high fluctuations in the currency market. Only normal appreciation or depreciation of currency may be allowed to happen except sudden high appreciation or depreciation. Now come to the basic fundamental issue is for whom this $5 trillion economy we are thinking of and who would be associated to move the present economy of less than $3 trillion to the cherished goal of achieving $5 trillion economy. Answer is obvious that it is for the people of this nation, and it is equally certain who is going to lead the economy from its present less than $3 trillion to $5 trillion economy is nothing but the youth of the nation. Therefore, we should pay right attention to the youth of the nation, and it is through their hands India would move forward towards achieving $5 trillion economy. With this view in mind, we should go forward in introducing youth job card to each and every youth on attaining age of 18 years. This youth job card would be universal in nature, as the same type of card would be available for both the rural and urban youth. Youth job card would show the present status of the holder, either employed or unemployed or in study. With this job card, holder can apply for educational loan, credit card, opening for saving bank account in a bank, and also small loan for his her enterprise from any commercial bank or any cooperative bank. Any other issues would be revolving around the youth for whom this card is being proposed, like for example health, education, or more specifically composite demand for youth or human being in general, fooding, clothing, shelter, and medical facility. With this composite demand, every youth needs some knowledge to do a certain type of work. This is what is known as employability. Employability for any type of work. With this employability, every youth should have a minimum formal education up to 8th standard. In the next post, we shall explain how to achieve our goal of near full employment, if not full employment in practice. With this precondition in mind, we shall proceed to drive our economy towards the cherished goal of achieving $5 trillion economy.